Joe Hopkins here, and what do you really need to record music? What do you need? What is it that you actually need to have to get started? Well, not much really, really not much. If you're watching this on your phone, then you have a phone, or maybe you have a tablet. My kid has decided to start doing music stuff, right? So she has an iPad, and I've been learning that there are a lot of programs, or apps, I should say. We call them apps now. I'm old. For your phone and your tablet and that kind of stuff. Now, I'm going to get into other things you need for recording later, but just the bare minimum, everybody has a phone or a tablet, and they have apps. My kid's mostly doing electronic kind of stuff, instrumentals, that sort of thing, no vocals, but they do have microphones you can plug into your phone and record stuff that way. Some of these apps, I believe, are free and some cost a little bit. I haven't tried them out, so I can't tell you which ones are any good. My kid might. She might know, but I'd say look around. That's the bare minimum. The bare minimum. Now, if you want to actually record music, like for real, you could do it for real on your phone, but like the normal stuff, you need a DAW. That means you need a computer. Most people have a computer. When I first got into recording, it's like everybody has a computer. Now everybody has a phone. Not everybody has a computer. So people do a lot of that stuff on their phones now, but most people have a computer, a laptop, PC, something like that. I've got a desktop PC. That's, you know, if you're actually putting a studio together, that's where the way most people seem to go. You need a DAW of some kind. I have Studio One Professional. You don't have to pay for a DAW, though. You have lots of free ones. Studio One has a free version, and there are a lot of free plugins that allow you to do all kinds of stuff. Now, once you have a PC and a DAW, you can do a lot of stuff. You know, there are a lot of plugins with MIDI or samples, that kind of stuff, and you can do a lot of electronic and instrumental stuff that way. If you get a decent, or it doesn't even have to be decent, any kind of USB mic, you can do vocals, record instruments, that kind of stuff. So, you know, when I first got started, I got an interface, right? There we go. I got Studio One. I got their package. So it comes with the DAW, the interface, the microphone, the whole deal. Those packages are nice, by the way. And PreSonus isn't the only ones that have them. You can go on Amazon or just shop around, find somebody that sells your interface, microphone. It's good to have some headphones, because when you're recording, you want to hear, but you don't want the sound to go back through the mic, you know, feedback. So headphones are good, you know. And, you know, a lot of those MIDI programs allow you to do things like MIDI drums. I like MIDI drums because, just so you get an idea, this is my studio. It's not big enough to set up a drum kit. And I don't really have the money for a drum kit. They're expensive. I'm not a super great drummer. I could probably get good. I was pretty good at one time. I could get good again if I practiced, but I don't have the money to buy a drum kit, the room to set it up, or the money to buy the larger interface and microphones to mic it. Usually you need quite a few microphones. My brother recorded drums with 2 mics, and it came out decent. But he also had a room that he'd done up specially for recording with the soundproofing and all that, treated room. So he got it pretty good with 2 mics. Most people use, yeah, there was a time when they did the 3 mic setup, but drums could be expensive. So MIDI drums, right? MIDI drums are fine. Most MIDI programs, you can get drums, you can get drum programs. The Studio One comes with MIDI drums and amp sims if you're recording guitar, all kinds of stuff. But it doesn't really take many plugins to really record. Mostly I find you use compression, reverb, and EQ. And sometimes you'll throw in like delay and stuff like that. So there aren't that many programs that that many plugins you need to make something sound semi-professional. So if you go the free route and just get some free plugins, you could do pretty good, right? There's a lot of good free plugins out there. Even if you're doing guitar, there are free amp sims, that kind of stuff. There are drum programs. You don't need 1,000 different drum kits in your MIDI set to record. You need one, really. One good one will do you. So it doesn't take much. If you want to spend the money and get more, you can, but you don't have to, right? So once you get that far, it's nice to have a decent set of monitors. I've got the PreSonus Aries monitors. You don't have to spend a lot of money though, but you don't want like the really cheap computer speakers, mostly because when you're mixing, you need to accurately hear what you're doing, right? I have mixed stuff on headphones before, and I don't mind it. Some people say you shouldn't mix on headphones. I find that it can be useful for some things, and I find as long as you take your track elsewhere to reference, like in the car or play it on your stereo, you can start out with headphones and then make little adjustments anyway. And even with the good monitors, when you go to mix a track, you're still going to want to listen to it in your car and on your stereo and different places to really hear how it sounds in different environments anyway. So if you don't get monitors, it's not a big deal. Get a decent set of headphones, which also aren't expensive. I have a pair of PreSonus headphones, and the ones I've been using lately are my El Cheapo Behringers, and I like them because they actually kind of hold the sound in pretty good. I don't get a lot of it leaking into the microphone when I'm doing vocals or stuff like that, which is nice. That can be a problem. That can be kind of, yeah, when you get that bleed through. Sometimes it's not a big deal. Sometimes it is. So, you know, that's some of the basics. I have underneath this blanket here, I have a keyboard, an 88 key MIDI keyboard. It's under the blanket to keep dust off it. It's good to keep dust off of things, and my house is dusty. But a MIDI keyboard, right? That's a good thing to have too, especially if you have MIDI programs. It makes doing the MIDI easier. Even if you don't play keyboard, if you don't play piano, you don't really know much about it. And you don't need an 88 key keyboard. You can get one of those little mini 20 couple keys, whatever, right? And an octave is enough because you're not playing something straight through. You're just kind of picking out what you want and then adding to it in the MIDI program. But it's good to have that for MIDI, that kind of thing. There are all sorts of different like touch pads and MIDI things for, you know, doing drums and percussion, but a keyboard is really where you start with that. Even like I said, even if it's only an octave and a half, that's fine. You don't need a lot of keys because you can switch what octave you're on, or you can record everything in one octave and then move it in the MIDI program. So, you know, you get further into recording, it's good to have something like that. It's good to have a decent microphone. That's why when you're buying an interface, right? It's good to get one that plugs in with the XLR cables and the 1/4-inch instrument jacks, like this one. This one takes both. That's kind of a good thing to have. You can get a one input interface. It's good to have two because sometimes you want to record something in stereo, sometimes you want to record two things at a time, that kind of thing. If you go that far, you need a microphone. I've got one up under that little cover up there. I've got Audio Technica, I think it is. It's fairly decent. I got that and the PreSonus one I originally got. That PreSonus, I think it's an M5, I think it's called, but the PreSonus mic was really good. I used that primarily for years and years and really liked it. I had other mics, but I found I really liked the PreSonus mic a lot. So, I mean, right now that's just the basics of what you need to record. Now, let's say you are a drummer and you have a drum kit. Like I said, my brother has recorded drums with 2 mics. Most people use at least 3. Led Zeppelin, I forget the producer's name, but anyway, he recorded those Led Zeppelin albums and the early Eagles albums with 3 mics. Right, you got 2 over the drum kit and 1 at the kick drum. Did he have 1 at the kick drum? I forget. Anyway, I know there's a 3 mic setup, and then some people mic every drum, but 3 at least. You know what I mean? So you need most of the interfaces come in 2, 4, or 6 inputs. It goes in even numbers. So you'd need a 4 input and a couple microphones, right? I don't know much about miking drums because, like I said, I haven't really had to do it. So my recommendation would be, if you're a drummer, look it up. What works good for drums, right? That kind of thing. If you're a guitarist, you need a guitar, right? You can get acoustic guitars and mic them. There are all sorts of different mics. You can use your standard condenser mic, or you know, whatever that you're using for vocals. Whatever you bought for vocals, you can use it. Practice, you know, play around with placement. I can't give you the exact placement you'd want for an acoustic guitar, because I've found it tends to be a little bit different depending on the guitar and the room you're in. It's all acoustic, so before you record, just play some stuff and listen to it, and then move the mic, play some stuff, listen to it, move the mic. Find where you like it. Once you find a good spot in the room that you're using, you just for the guitar you have, now you know what you're doing, and you just do the same thing every time. For electric guitars, it's pretty easy. You get your guitar cable and plug it into, there it is, your interface. There are a lot of amp sims out there. You don't need the mic and amplifier. Miking amps is an art, and you don't have to. You don't have to do it. You can use an amp sim. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using amp sims. They sound really good now. They have excellent ones. If you do have an amp that you want to mic, a Shure SM57 tends to be the go-to for that kind of thing, and some people use two mics. Once again, lots of people on YouTube have advice about what mics to use, and everybody uses something different, it seems. Everybody uses a 57 and something else. So look up what that something else is and see what you think. Now, when I started recording, I had the guitars. I bought the kit that comes with the microphone and the interface and the software and all that stuff. What I didn't have was a bass, right? I was doing drums on the MIDI, so I had to buy a bass. There it is, my first bass, that one, the blue Squire with the stickers on it. Yeah, you might need a bass, or you could just use MIDI. Once again, MIDI is a wonderful thing for people that play an instrument but don't play the other instruments, but you need the other instruments. Wonderful for that. And if you do play keyboard, they have MIDI programs that have just about any sound you'd want, any piano, organ, synthesizer, all of it. So you get a good MIDI set, and now you have all the keyboards you could ever want. It's pretty nice. So, if you're a serious keyboard player, maybe do like I did, get an 88 key MIDI keyboard. That's not where I started. I started with a cheap, what is it, 62, 63 key, whatever it is, that size, Radio Shack brand keyboard that my wife found at the Goodwill for $20. The plug was broken, so you had to run on batteries. So we went through D-cell batteries like crazy. It took 8 D-cell batteries, but it doesn't matter how cheap the keyboard is, because if you're using the MIDI program, it sounds like whatever the MIDI is. All it is a keyboard to input what you want to input. So if you're a keyboard player, you don't have to have something expensive. Just anything that plugs in with MIDI that you can use to make the sounds you want. And then the computer does the sound, right? That's the wonderful thing about recording these days, is you don't need great instruments to sound like you have great instruments, because you have all these programs. It's actually pretty wonderful, because you have all the stuff that they would have in a professional studio in the box, in your computer. And I know there are people that would argue that, but we're not talking about recording stuff for Taylor Swift, or recording stuff for whoever, for whatever big artist. You're not the Beatles. You don't need the best stuff in the world. You're doing it for you. You're doing it for fun, and you can make all the music you want with very little outlay at the start, with spending very little money, and you could buy the things, one or two things at a time. You know what I mean? If you want to get into recording, get the DAW, and then play around with the free plugins and the MIDI stuff, and then get a microphone. And then that's what I did. I had a couple of instruments, a couple acoustic, classical guitars, an electric guitar, a couple of things. I borrowed my brother's bass until I bought one. And me and my wife just bought the interface with the package set. Came with the software and the microphone. I think she spent like $400 and some bucks, 400 and something on it. It wasn't a lot of money. So we just got that and started recording. And I've just added over the years. You buy a thing here, a thing there, you get a mic, you buy the monitors, one thing at a time. Right? So if you want to get into recording, it doesn't cost much money. Like I said, if you want to, you can even do it on your phone, on a tablet. You can get started. And once you get started, that's the thing. Some people get this idea that you have to have all the stuff, and you have to be ready to go, full on, right off the bat. You don't. Start somewhere. It's all about just taking that first step. You don't even have to be that good at it. Because if you've never done it before, you're going to find you're not as good at it as you might think. The first time when I first started recording, I thought, okay, I'm pretty good. I've played with a lot of bands and I've played live a lot. And then I learned that your timing with a band is not the same as when you're playing a click track, right? You'll find you want to go with the click track so everything lines up so that you can record multiple parts and it all works out. Especially if you are using MIDI, you want to be on time. I learned that live timing is not the same as recording, and recording stuff isn't the same as just playing it live. You learn as you go, and that I'm not trying to scare anybody off. I'm just saying it's not as hard as you think. It's just a learning curve. The first couple times you do it, it's going to be difficult in ways you weren't expecting, but there are going to be other things that are easier than you thought they'd be. Yeah. And there's a lot of help online, a lot of help, a lot of very good channels on YouTube that go over recording, how to record, tips for mixing, how to use the different plugins, anything you could possibly want to know. But the very first step is just start. Even just with a little bit. With the first things I was recording, I borrowed my brother's DAW. Well, pirated. This is back when you could pirate software when it came with it. You didn't have to log in to verify it. It came with a password, you know, way back in the late 90s. I kind of pirated his DAW that he had got to play around with when he was majoring in music in college. And I had a computer microphone, just one of those cheap computer mics, and just started recording stuff. And, you know, you could record multiple tracks, and it was really noisy. I struggled with the noise because every time you record a track, you have that background noise. You know how noisy computer mics are. But that's all I had was a pirated DAW and a microphone. And I started with that. And that's all, you know. Nowadays, yeah, it's pretty cheap. Even free to get a lot of the stuff. And a lot of people have a USB mic or a decent mic that plugs right into the computer. You can do a lot with just the free DAW, couple free plugins, and a USB mic. That's a good place to start. And if you go from there and start building more around it, good for you. It's a great hobby and it's really fun. And the best part about it is if you have songs that you've written or songs that you like that you want to do in your way, you get to do the music you want to hear. That's my favorite thing. I'm my biggest fan because I'm doing the songs that I want to hear. Songs that I want people to do. I would like to hear the song. When I write a song and I record it, I do it the way I would want to hear it. And sometimes it doesn't come out exactly the way I wanted, but I find even with that, it comes out pretty cool. And it's really fun to experiment with sounds and try different things and get different sounds. And even if it never goes anywhere, like, you know, I put out music, I'm not tearing up the world with it, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's a hobby that doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It can if you want it to. Like any hobby. It's like fishing. It's cheap at first, and then when you get into it, man, you can spend as much as you want. I learned that back in the day when I loved fishing. You can spend as much as you want to spend on fishing, or as little. And this is the same kind of thing. Like with any hobby. This costs as much or as little as you want it to. And it is a lot of fun, a lot of fun. So if you're a musician, as I know a lot of you are, and you want to play around with stuff like that, and you don't even have to write your own songs, you can just play around with it. It can be a lot of fun. And sometimes when you start recording, you find that you're writing songs as you go. You'll surprise yourself. You'll accidentally write a song, or you'll do something that's, you know, I like that. I think I could build a song around that. It's a lot of fun, and it could go somewhere. It could. It does for some people, and you never know. So there you go. It doesn't take a lot. Get started today. Yeah, my little home studio. There's not a lot there. Not really. The majority of what's in my room is guitars hanging on walls and just stuff, you know. So anyway, I will. I'll see you guys in the next video. And if you do want to listen to some of my music, see if I'm any good, at the end here a playlist comes up. It says Talking Dogs. That's my new album, and there's links to my streaming down below there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I love y'all. Peace out, baby. Bye-bye.